No, really, it's the truth. That was great. I love that. Okay, so down in your soul is boot camp. Now, one of the things that I wanted to look up, and I'm just kind of sharing impromptu, I didn't do it, is boot camp. So, what does boot camp mean to you? I'm just curious. Okay. It hard work, basic training, working out. Oh, where's Mark? Yeah, discipline. Yes. What else? Really? Oh, okay. Okay. Loneliness. That's interesting. What was that? Commitment. You have to have faith in the team and learn how to follow, she said. And she said it like this. You have to have faith in the team and learn how to follow. So, what are we following down in our soul? Yeah, all, all of those things. So, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, or maybe you're not even interested, but however, uh, the Centers for Spiritual Living does an annual theme, and they actually then do monthly themes and suggested book of the month, just like we're doing here. Maybe next year we'll join the team and do that. But this year, what the yearly theme is celebrating 100 years of Science of Mind. And so it's been like boot camp for me. It's been like following the, getting with the team. And so since I've had the opportunity recently to settle down, be at Center for Spiritual Living in Redwood City, and they're doing the theme, I've been speaking from the theme. And what I've jumped into basically is not only the foundations, the basics, which is really all there is the basics of Science of Mind, but the one practice that sets Science of Mind apart from so many of the other New Thought teachings is that Ernest Holmes really is the one that developed, created, and named our main spiritual practice, which is spiritual mind treatment. Thank you. And so I've been able to speak very specifically about spiritual mind treatment, and I have found that just my digging in and pulling that up has taken me down in my soul. Down in my soul. So recently, there was a topic, and it was something like, and actually this phrase comes from the textbook, let us not fool ourselves. So when I dug a little bit deeper into that and went to the references in the Science of Mind textbook, we know that the truth is that there is only one life. That life is God. That life is good. And that life is my life now. Absolutely, unequivocally, over and out and done, and so it is. There's only one life. That life is God. That life is good. That life is my life now. I can say spirit. I can say infinite mind. I can say divine intelligence. I can say the universe. I can say the thing itself. I can call it Buddha or the Atman. I can call it Jesus or God. doesn't matter what I call it. There's only one life, and it's my life now. Now, actually, when I begin to say that and affirm that, guess what happens? One of the things that happens is that everything unlike that truth with a capital T begins to come up or to just pass away beneath my level of conscious awareness. But for the ones that come up, it really gets my attention. And so I've had it said to me many times, and I also, I found out recently that one of my teachers said that I was the biggest complainer there ever was. No, it wasn't complainer, it was whiner. Because I'm, one of the ways that I process things is verbally. And so, that's just the way it is. But let's not fool ourselves. Because there's only one life. That life is God. That life is good. That life is my life now. But let's not fool ourselves. And Dr. Holmes says in The Science of Mind, we do not say everything is all right when everything is wrong. We do not say peace when there is no peace, but rather we try to discover what is wrong and why we do not have peace. We do not say people are not poor, sick, unhappy, but we do ask why these things should be when the original cause, the first cause of all things is harmonious, perfect, radiant, at peace, and free. We try, we attempt to discover. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about today is really direct, in terms of compassion, is directly related to this wonderful book of the month. And I'm going to just take a minute to do an advertisement, because this is very simply written, but oh my gosh, in terms of why we should get into the mud, because the mud is there. And in actuality, when we look at the most beautiful flower or the most beautiful outcome or garden, we're looking at mud. If we're willing to look deeper. And so he goes deep into the why, which I'll share with you in a moment, and the practical nature of Buddhism. He gives a lot of examples as well. So I just highly recommend this book, and I was really fortunate when I was over at Andy and Maggie's the other night that they brought it out. And I took it home. Thank you, I'll give it back to you today. But I'm going to get my own. So, life is messy. It's kind of amazing since the news in the last couple of years has taken a big leap into reporting on and showing us the messiness that is going on. Sometimes it gives me the opportunity to not focus on my own messiness. Exactly, a distraction. And when I can't take it anymore, and I realize that it isn't feeding my soul, and that it's moving me more and more to a place of hopelessness, and then a lot of other adjectives as well, I dial it back. And I do want to know what's going on. but I know the things that really trigger me. And so I choose not to, so that I can pay attention to the messiness in my life. Now, Thich Nhat Hanh tells us at times we feel like we're doing something wrong because we still experience unhappiness and suffering. Even though we do spiritual mind treatment, we come here on Sundays, we really, I mean, this is our bread and butter, the science of mind, this center, what we teach. As I believe, so I experience. But somewhere along the line, I think that maybe, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, maybe there's some thinking in us that says we shouldn't suffer, that we're doing something wrong if we suffer, or if we experience unhappiness or anger or sadness or feelings of hopelessness, or, you know, what could make a difference? Nothing's going to make a difference. Nothing's going to change. My needs aren't going to be met. As a matter of fact, Dr. Holmes says that that is the greatest fear of humanity when you break it right down. That the fear is that our needs will not be met. And needs is a big category. Our health, our finances, our creative expression, our relationships, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with God, our relationship with our sons, our daughters, our grandchildren, our friends, the people, our co-workers, the people we volunteer with, the people that we meet on the road, places in our life, you know, where our buttons get pushed. The fear that our needs will not be met. And so Thich Nhat Hanh says, yes, it's difficult to accept that there is no realm where there's only happiness. And I think he's talking about this world, because I'm not going to say that for sure about another realm. I guess, you know, I'm still hoping. But he says there's no realm where there's only happiness and no suffering. In fact, he says the art of happiness is learning to suffer well. And so really it's a reframe. So the flower comes up. I've had one sitting on the windowsill this week. I forget the name of it. But it's red. Has this kind of brown yellow center, and it just draws my attention to it. And every day it's looked a little less perky. And do you ever feel like that? So anyway, it looks a little less perky, but Thich Nhat Hanh says that, think about it, you know, it wilts and it dies and it turns to compost. Ooh, stinky, dirty. It turns to compost, and that for the next incarnation, the next expression of wholeness, the mud is needed, the dirt. And so when we look in the flower, we actually see all of the elements of the earth and the minerals and water and the sun and the flower. And so why should it be any different? Why should we be any different? That when unhappiness and suffering and challenges of all kinds come up in our life, that the mud is the flower. That the challenge is the unfolding of the next stage of our spiritual magnificence. And so when we get down in our soul, and he says, embrace it. Tells us that's the first step. That's the step of being conscious. Because when we go, no, it's not there, only the beauty, I'm only seeking the beauty, I'm seeking to stay on the platform. Uh, only the beauty. Yeah, there is that Bible quote. Shut up. Yeah, just in the mud and in the beauty is the mud, that it's all one thing. So when we embrace, number one, first step, what is happening is that thing we all know about, mindfulness. Taking a breath. Thich Nhat Hanh says, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in and embrace the challenges. Breathe out and release the challenge. Whatever that may be. And that's not something that we just do when we come to service. It's something that we're required in order to suffer well and to prime the pump for peace, for satisfaction, for the next element of our wholeness to be revealed. We're asked to be conscious and aware of every single part of ourselves, to embrace it. And so when we feel the feelings of whatever it is, we know that we've actually taken the first step to releasing what has kept us stuck. What we heretofore have pushed away and repressed, which is the energy of creativity. And because it is God energy, because there's only one life, it is going to find a way in our body to express. Okay, that's good enough for me. That's important to me. I don't know about you. That's super important to me. Because I don't want that negative energy. And I know it happens because I'm not perfect, and we're human, we're having a human experience, and we don't have to be conscious of every single thing. As a matter of fact, it's not possible. But when I'm aware that something's off, or that I'm unhappy, or that there's something in my life that I'm bumping up against, or just a divine discontent, that, yeah, this is great, but it's gotten to be status quo. So either I'm conscious of it, that something is going to work in me for change. And I loved what Reverend Lisa talked about with change last week. Change comes when we think we don't even ask for it. And it feels it's mud. It's messy. It's dirty. It's difficult, it's challenging. Sometimes we go, oh, that was a really interesting experience, and somebody told me that means I barely made it through it. But if we can embrace it, recognize it, embrace it, and then get down in your soul, and as Ernest Holmes said, we ask why. We look deeply. This is how Thich Nhat Hanh says it. Look deeply into the roots of your discomfort. Embrace it. Ask it. What does this have to teach me? My discomfort. Is there wisdom in this? And he talks about the way that this mindfulness then will open up our soul with wisdom, with answers, with direction. And I know so many places, and I know you've had those experiences too, that so many places in your life it's been just like grace, the way things have worked out. That it just has to be pure grace, the grace of God. So what this reminds me of is how little, now I'm really emphasizing this about embracing it and being aware of it, but compared to the coupons that are in there, compared to the gold, compared to the infinite possibilities that live within us, we just have to do so little. Don't use that to let yourself off the hook. Use it to support yourself in the knowing that there is nothing, no thing, no challenge that is bigger, greater than divine mind. Andy, in his meditation this morning, used a beautiful phrase. And he said, he talked about the tears from our eyes meets divine source. Have you ever experienced anything like that? I have. Where in the depths of your despair, crying, sometimes whining, in the embrace of it, in the sadness of it, meeting that infinite divine love that's at the center of your being, that comes up out of the mud like the lotus and wraps its arms around you and says, "You are the beloved." O ye of little faith, you are magnificent. You are beautiful in your heart and your soul. The energy that you are is needed first for yourself. First for yourself. That's compassion. And if we don't have compassion for our own suffering, how in the world will we have eyes to see the suffering in others and to be willing and whole enough to recognize it, to embrace it, to love it, to heal it? There's a phrase in spirituality and psychology that is very prevalent right now, and it's called spiritual bypass. And there's an author, his name is Robert Augustus Masters, and here's how he coins it: avoidance in holy drag. Oh, I'm whole, complete, and perfect. When those words come out of your mouth, you know that that's not how you feel at all. Dr. Holmes says, let us not fool ourselves. You don't have to tell anybody, but you need to know it. Now, it's not a minister's job. It's not a practitioner's job. It's not anybody's job to embrace it or deal with it or heal it. However, what I have found in my life is that as soon as I recognize and embrace my own suffering and my own discomfort and my own pain, that sometimes I am led to a spiritual mentor or to a practitioner or to a counselor or to a cherished friend who I know knows how to listen. Somebody that's not going to say, oh, yeah, right, that's never going to change, Christine. No, you might as well just settle with that. Because I know a lot of other people who have dealt with the same thing, and it didn't get any better for them. That's not the kind of friend I'm talking about. I'm talking about a friend that can hear you, that can feel you. But at the same time, a friend that knows the truth of you. A friend that understands that this has come up to pass away. And in the meantime, through that mud, that we learn, oh, such valuable gifts. Valuable gifts. So, I want to share with you a little story about an experience that I had with the mud. And this was quite a long time ago, but I was in Science of Mind, and I was in that place in Science of Mind where I was taking classes and doing a lot of workshops, and things were changing for me. I mean, they were changing so fast I barely knew who I was at many times. And I was a part of the Paradise Church, and there was a cruise that was being put together, and Dr. Carolyn and her husband at the time, Dr. Mack, they were going on the cruise, and I was gifted the cruise by another member. And we were going to the Caribbean, and so I got like, wow, and I got ready and had all my best clothes, and I went to my jewelry box and I pulled out some of my best jewelry, and one of the things that I pulled out was this over a carat diamond in this great big old setting that I had inherited from my at least great-grandmother. Hardly ever wore the thing. So the first night we're on the cruise, and the ship stopped in San Juan. Big place. And we were at this show, and it's just so fancy, and I'm just like, this is really fun. And went into the restroom on the break, and this was the 80s, I think, and so it was like the pantsuits things, and the pantyhose, and all of this stuff. And so when I got into the stall, I'm like, I have to take this ring off. I can't do all this with this big ring on. So I took it off and I set it on top of the toilet paper holder. Got myself all back together, went back, enjoyed the rest of the evening. And that night we got back on the cruise ship, and I went to the restroom on the cruise ship, and I went, oh. First night of the cruise. There were like 5 or 6 ships that were docked in San Juan that were visiting that club that night. And my mom was on the cruise. She was going to be here today. I thought she would enjoy this. And when I got onto the ship, maybe it's better that she's not. When I got onto the ship, when I came out of the bathroom, she was right there. And, I couldn't hide it. I mean, I was white as a ghost, so it was just like, oh, my mind was just spinning all over the place. What was I going to do? and panicked and feeling like I was going to be sick. And, but I told her. Well, her response was not helpful in the moment. Now, because I'm such a good student, I went to my teacher. I lost my ring. I'm never going to get it back. Look at all, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Did all of the things that one would do, put it on the board, even talk to the captain. The captain graciously said, I'm going to contact all the other ships. We'll get it put on their board. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And there I was. Everything was done, and I went to my teacher, and she said, do you believe that this cruise and that ring is yours by right of consciousness? And I walked out, and I embraced that idea. Because I wasn't feeling any peace. I was rather upset. And my mind was definitely going to the worst case scenarios. And then I have my mother right there. But my spiritual mother said, what you resist persists. She said, what you're willing to let go of can become yours by right of consciousness. She said, I'm going to be doing spiritual mind treatment for you to release any false beliefs or error thinking that you have held about yourself, that you're inadequate, that you're not deserving all of these riches of life. And I am going to be knowing that the person that walked into that stall and picked up that ring is having a conscience. A conscience. See, that's a divine quality. Just like compassion. It's actually fairly linked. So I went through the week. And I have to say that toward the end of the week, middle of the week, toward the end of the week, I was starting to have a good time, for the most part, unless I thought of it. But what I remember so many years later is standing on the edge of the ship and looking over, I'm sure a lot of you have been on a cruise, looking over the vast, infinite ocean. And looking at it, and it's like the depths that are there, the infiniteness that's there. And it was a way and a place that I could embrace my suffering, that I could inquire into the roots of where this sense of unworthiness might have come from and how it had affected my life. And maybe even that I could begin to glimpse on the horizon in my awareness, in my mindfulness, that it would be possible for me to not get that ring back and still be happy. To let it go. To know that in the mind of God there's nothing lost and that it's finding its right place and that my abundance and beauty, and if I wanted that to be jewelry, that there were many channels and avenues for that to come. And so on the very last day of the cruise, we were in the room, where you fill out the papers to disembark and stuff like that. And the person that was leading, somebody came and talked to the person that was leading the meeting, and then they called my name. And I went up, and the man said to me, your ring's been turned in. Oh, like, okay. And they took me to this stairwell, and I'm at the top of the stairwell on the ship, and I could see only the legs of the man at, at the bottom of the stairwell. And they told me, he's down there, he has your ring, just go on down there. And so as I walked down, and the extension of the ceiling or whatever it was, as I walked down, and I could, little by little, I could see more of him. When I got down to the bottom, when I saw this part of his body, he was standing there and he was holding out my ring, just like this. And I went up to him. I go, yeah, that's mine. And he said, I went to the desk by the Lost and Found board today to pay our bill. And he said, I have no idea why I looked over at the Lost and Found board. And there it was. He said it just popped out at him. Lost ring. And he went back to his room. Get this. That was 2 doors down from mine. And he told his wife, the owner of that ring is on this ship. We must return it. Now, I don't know if she was having a conscience. But he was having a conscience. And there's only one thing going on anyway, and they're one, and But he said, is this your ring? Now, this didn't all hit me, until later. The significance of me saying, yes, that's my ring. But, it's just an example of the way that life's mud gives us the opportunity to recognize the mud, to embrace it. I don't think I ever went around that cruise and said, nothing's lost in the mind of God. I know that's my ring, but I definitely was treating to know that. I was spiritualizing my intellect, and I was knowing there's only one life. That life is God. That life is good, infinitely good, abundant, whole, perfect, and I am that. And by right of consciousness, I am deserving of life's abundance and riches and love and joy and prosperity and beauty and whatever floats my boat at any given time. And I could have left that ship without my ring and still have been all the better for it, for the mud of the experience. Happiness is impermanent. Things are impermanent. But the truth of who you are is who you are and will go with you and be you wherever you are, even if you get to a realm where there is only happiness. And so in closing, Dr. Holmes writes this in the section called Finding the Christ. I am. What more can I say? I am, and it is enough. Because thou art, I am. From out of the depths of me, I am. In and around me, I am. Over and through me, I am. O inner being, eternal and blessed, complete and perfect, birthless and changeless and deathless, I am, and I evermore shall be. Namaste. Blessings. And so it is.